You'd have to watch them be competent, basically. I'm sure you have. We'll get to that. How many of you are not permitted to exit a child from the room? In primary, you wouldn't want to do that as much, obviously. You'd isolate them more or less in the room if you're going to do it at all, from what I've seen. And of course, adjusting curriculum, like I said, with the shark guy. And how many of you have a system so systematic that you can tell me in a court of law that the kid who you have exited 4 times already with 3 preceding consequences, so they've received 12 negatives, has received positives for social behaviour? How many of you have a system that you could use as evidence? Anybody?
If we have behaviour problems with some students,
yep.
When they have proceeded to do something positive, we make a phone call home.
Okay, there's one phone call home, and you would record on a piece of paper that you phoned home, and that would be, and so you would have that evidence. Anything else?
On our Yardjini folder, we've just got a note that says our holding school values, and that goes to the department file.
In a file. Good, good.
Dot and tick chart that monitors positive consequences and the negative ones, and the negatives rub off at the end of the day.
Okay.
Our school values are on postcards, and teachers have access to those postcards when they mail.
And how would you know when they have done that? It's recorded as they send them out. Perfect. That's okay. This is the sort of stuff we're talking about, right? Where you not only, in other words, you catch that challenging child being normal, and you say something nice, and you record that information somewhere, so that if anyone challenges you, not because that's not why, I would like anyone here really a whiz bang at palms and stuff like that, because someone should be able to program one of these things that you could just touch the name and record it as you go, practically. Because in some ways, you can almost sort of send out emails to home. There's got to be ways we can use technology. I'm hoping some whiz person in this room can tell me about that. One way, by the way, if you send, I've seen one teacher do this. He's got a, I don't know what it is, but he touches the name and then it disappears, because that kid's got his recognition. And so that way he forces him, of course he touches the names of the good kids first, but that forces him eventually to deal with the more challenging kids, because they're the only ones left on his list. So, and that's his way of doing it. So it's like feedback of some kind. There's got to be clever ideas. Okay, I'll just finish this off. Nothing there that you don't agree with, I don't think. The question is how to implement them. And then we come down to hint. They didn't like hints very much, not as much. Oh, sorry, not as strong as I thought. I thought they would have been stronger. They don't like minimising rewards, and they don't like the idea. Who's had, what's her name from New South Wales? We spoke about her before. She does the seesaw with a Richmond? Christine Richmond? Someone spoke about her. Yeah, she's big on this balance between positive and negatives with kids, yeah? Yeah, she trained 40 teachers to balance positive and negatives. She trained them over 2 weeks. She left them for 4 months, came back, and when she left, they were doing it beautifully. Every kid in the room got an equal balance. And when she came back, it was as if she'd never been there. So your biggest problem is not going to be to sell this stuff. It's going to be to get it embedded. Okay, now, I won't go there. Okay, I think I'll skip. This is not news to you. You won't go there. This is what schools have already given me in previous lives. I thought I'd share that with you. This is how they know that teachers are stressed. You like that? Now, I'm going to finish off with some new data. Ignore all that. See, they still hang on to that in secondary schools, notice? They don't see that as a problem in secondary schools. I could only get 65% of staff thinking that was a problem in these secondary schools I was working with. They were quite happy still, even after we'd been through the entire program. Not the one here, but prior to this. Now, last thing I want to finish off is a bit of data. I've just analysed some data on this stuff, and it's really interesting. from this previous batch, kids who are exited, I have a questionnaire which I'm going to send to everybody eventually, which if you want to, you can do by interview, or you can just get a kid to fill it out if you can read. It's going onto the web as well. It asks them, why were you sent out? Right? Now they can say, because she hates me, she picks on me. I didn't do anything. Or they can say, I stopped someone from learning, I interfered with learning, I made someone feel unsafe, I made someone feel uncomfortable, etc., etc. Now I can now report, first of all, the kids who take responsibility are less likely to blame anybody else. The kids who blame the teacher are not going to take responsibility. That's the first thing. Well, it's not a shock. In general, the ones who are hated and picked on, they think, did not receive prior warnings, they say. So it was clearly not overt enough for them. They had no chance, less chance to discuss that issue with the teacher afterwards, and if they did, they were basically just told off. So this gives me more strength to my argument that you have to have systems in place, both by way of managing the classroom rewards and punishment and discussion, and that's what I'm going to spend next time on. I'm going to go on to that. So, in summary, that's it. If you reflect on what we've done today, it's much more complicated than most teachers realise. And how you're going to communicate that to your staff is beyond me, but you're going to have to try. Now, you do know about the book. I've got a book out on this stuff, so that I assume you do you? All right, well, maybe we'll let you know. There's a book called The Developmental Management Approach to Classroom Behaviour. That's the ACER book. We can email that maybe out. If you go on Amazon, it's called Understanding Pupil Behaviour because it's an American version. So I don't know what that means, but they changed the title. But it's called Development, and it's got a coverage of the sort of things we've been discussing. But what I intend to do is now drop all theory, not all theory, most theory, and go straight into the practice. Okay, any questions before we finish off? Great, thank you.